Think survival means stockpiling canned beans? Medieval farmers would disagree. They didn't have grocery stores or pharmacies, just trees. Food, medicine, tools, even shelter came from them. These weren't ordinary trees. They were survival trees. And once you hear about them, you'll never see your backyard the same way again. Number 10. Walnut trees. Let's start with something that might actually surprise you. Walnut trees weren't just about the nuts. Sure, medieval farmers loved cracking open walnuts for food, but that's like saying smartphones are just for making phone calls. These trees were basically medieval Swiss Army knives. The wood was incredibly valuable for making furniture and tools, because it's naturally resistant to insects and decay. But here's where it gets interesting. They used walnut hulls to make brown dye for clothing and ink for writing. Imagine dyeing your entire wardrobe with what you'd normally throw in the compost bin. And the medicinal uses? Medieval physicians used walnut leaves to treat skin conditions, wounds, and even intestinal worms. They believed that because walnut kernels looked like tiny brains, they must be good for brain health. Sounds ridiculous, right? Well, modern science has actually proven that walnuts are packed with omega-3 fatty acids that really are good for brain function. Sometimes medieval logic accidentally got things right. The best part? One mature walnut tree could produce enough nuts to feed a family through the winter, plus provide medicine, dye, and wood for repairs. It was like having a hardware store, pharmacy, and grocery store all growing in your backyard. Number 9. Elderberry trees. Now here's a tree that looks harmless enough but packs more medicinal punch than a medieval monastery's entire herb garden. Elderberry trees were so important to medieval life that cutting one down was considered bad luck. And honestly, it was, because you'd be destroying your family's pharmacy. The berries were turned into syrups, wines, and preserves that could help fight off colds and flu. Medieval people didn't know about antioxidants and immune systems, but they knew that elderberry syrup kept them healthier during the brutal winter months. Modern research has proven they were absolutely right. Elderberries are loaded with compounds that boost immune function. But here's where elderberry gets really interesting. They used every part of the tree. The flowers were made into fritters, cordials, and healing teas. The bark was used to treat headaches and fever. Even the leaves had medicinal properties. Though you had to be careful because raw elderberry bark and leaves can be toxic. The wood was hollow and easy to carve, making it perfect for creating flutes, whistles, and even primitive medical instruments. Kids would make elderberry pop guns, which is basically medieval entertainment that could also double as a hunting tool for small game. Number 8. Apple trees. You're probably thinking boring. Everyone knows about apple trees. But medieval apple trees were nothing like the sweet, perfect varieties we know today. These were tough, sour, barely edible fruits that required serious creativity to make palatable. And that's exactly what made them perfect for survival. Medieval farmers didn't grow apples to eat fresh. They grew them to make cider. We're talking about alcoholic cider that was safer to drink than water, because the fermentation process killed harmful bacteria. In many medieval communities, people drank cider from breakfast to dinner because it was literally safer than the local water supply. But apple trees provided way more than just fermented beverages. The wood was perfect for tool handles and small furniture pieces. Apple wood burns hot and clean, making it ideal for cooking and smoking meats. The bark could be used to tan leather, and apple cider vinegar was a crucial preservative for food storage. Here's the survival aspect that's truly genius. Apple trees can survive in harsh climates where other fruit trees fail. They're incredibly hardy, can live for decades with minimal care, and a single tree can produce hundreds of pounds of fruit. Even if the apples were too sour to eat fresh, they could be dried, turned into cider, or fermented into vinegar for preservation. Number 7. Hazel trees. The hazel tree was like having a hardware store that also happened to produce food. These trees grow fast, produce nuts within a few years, and provide some of the most versatile wood you can imagine. Medieval farmers were absolutely obsessed with hazels, and once you understand why, you'll be too. Hazelnuts were a crucial protein source that could be stored for months without spoiling. They're packed with fats and calories, exactly what you need to survive a medieval winter when food was scarce. But the real treasure was the wood. Hazel wood is incredibly flexible and strong, making it perfect for everything from basket weaving to building frameworks for houses. They used hazel rods to make wattle and daub walls, which is basically medieval construction technology. The flexibility meant the wood could bend without breaking, while the strength meant it could support substantial weight. Hazel was also the go-to material for making fishing rods, walking sticks, and even medieval fencing weapons. But here's the part that'll blow your mind. Hazel trees were coppiced, which means they were cut down to stumps every 7 to 10 years, and then they'd regrow multiple trunks. It's like having a renewable lumber yard that also produces food. One hazel grove could provide a steady supply of building materials for generations while still producing nuts every year. Number 6. Rowan trees. Mountain ash. The rowan tree, also called mountain ash, was medieval Europe's ultimate survival tree. This thing could grow anywhere. Rocky soil, mountainsides, harsh climates where other trees gave up and died. If you were a medieval farmer trying to scratch out a living in marginal land, rowan trees were your best friend. The berries are incredibly sour and bitter when raw. We're talking face-puckering, mouth-numbing sour, but when cooked and processed, they become a valuable source of vitamin C that could prevent scurvy during long winters. Medieval people didn't understand vitamins, but they knew that rowan berry preserves kept them healthier when fresh food was unavailable. The wood is incredibly hard and was prized for making tool handles, especially for axes and hammers. It doesn't split easily and can withstand tremendous force, which made it perfect for tools that needed to last for years of heavy use. The bark could be used for tanning leather, and the leaves had medicinal properties for treating digestive issues. But rowan trees had another crucial purpose. They were believed to ward off evil spirits and witches. Medieval farmers planted them near their homes and barns for protection. Whether or not you believe in supernatural protection, having hardy fruit trees growing around your property definitely provided practical protection against hunger and material shortages. Number 5. Sweet chestnut trees. Before the potato became Europe's staple carbohydrate, there was the sweet chestnut. These massive trees were basically medieval grain silos that could feed entire communities. A single mature chestnut tree could produce hundreds of pounds of nuts that were nutritionally similar to wheat or rice. Chestnuts were ground into flour for bread, roasted and eaten like modern snack foods, or boiled into porridge. They were so important to medieval diets that chestnut forests were more valuable than farmland in many regions. The nuts store well, are packed with carbohydrates, and have enough protein to sustain people through harsh winters. The wood was incredible, naturally rot-resistant and perfect for construction. Chestnut timber was used for everything from roof beams to fence posts because it could last decades without treatment. The bark was used for tanning leather, and even the leaves had medicinal properties for treating respiratory ailments. Here's what makes chestnuts truly remarkable. The trees can live for over 1,000 years and keep producing nuts the entire time. We're talking about a food source that could feed your family for generations. Medieval farmers would plant chestnut groves knowing that their great-great-grandchildren would still be harvesting from the same trees. Number 4. Willow trees. The willow tree was medieval Europe's living pharmacy, and modern medicine has proven that medieval healers knew exactly what they were doing. Willow bark contains salicine, which is the natural precursor to aspirin. Medieval people didn't know the chemistry, but they knew that willow bark tea could relieve pain, reduce fever, and fight inflammation. But willows provided way more than just medicine. The flexible branches were perfect for basket weaving, which was crucial for storing and transporting everything from grain to tools. Willow baskets were lightweight, durable, and could be made in hundreds of different shapes and sizes for specific purposes. The wood was used for making lightweight tools and handles. Because willow trees grow incredibly fast and can be harvested sustainably, they provided a renewable source of materials. You could cut willow branches and know that they'd regrow within a few years. Here's the survival aspect that's truly brilliant. Willow trees love wet, marshy ground where other crops fail. Medieval farmers could plant willows in areas that were too soggy for grain crops and still get valuable materials and medicine. They were basically turning unusable swampland into productive pharmaceutical gardens. Number 3. Oak trees. The oak tree was the absolute king of medieval survival trees. These massive giants provided everything a medieval community needed to survive and thrive. We're talking about trees so important that entire civilizations were built around them. And honestly, it's not hard to see why. Acorns were a crucial backup food source during famines. Yes, they're bitter and require processing to remove toxic tannins, but once processed, they're packed with carbohydrates and can be ground into flour. Native Americans and early Europeans both relied on acorn flour during hard times, and a single oak tree could produce hundreds of pounds of acorns. The wood was legendary, strong, durable, and perfect for construction. Oak timber was used for everything from ships to cathedral beams because it could last for centuries. The bark was rich in tannins and was the primary material for tanning leather, which was essential for making everything from shoes to armor. But oak trees provided something even more valuable. They supported entire ecosystems. The trees attracted game animals, provided habitat for useful birds, and their fallen leaves enriched the soil for other crops. Medieval farmers understood that planting oak groves created microenvironments that supported multiple food sources. Number 2. Mulberry trees. The mulberry tree was medieval Europe's secret weapon for both food security and economic prosperity. These fast-growing trees produce enormous quantities of berries that can be eaten fresh, dried for winter storage, or fermented into wine. But that's just the beginning of what made mulberries so valuable. The berries are packed with vitamin C and antioxidants, making them crucial for preventing scurvy and maintaining health during long winters. They ripen over several weeks rather than all at once, providing fresh fruit throughout the growing season. A single tree could feed a family for months. The leaves were even more valuable than the fruit in many regions because they were the primary food for silkworms. Medieval Europe's silk industry depended entirely on mulberry trees, and silk was worth more than gold. Farmers could literally grow their own luxury industry in their backyards. The wood was prized for making tool handles and small implements because it's both strong and flexible. The bark could be processed into paper and rope, and even the roots had medicinal properties for treating various ailments. Number 1. Yew trees. And finally, we have the yew tree, medieval Europe's ultimate survival tree that was literally a matter of life and death. These evergreen giants were so important to medieval warfare and survival that kings passed laws controlling who could cut them down. We're talking about trees that shaped the course of history. Yew wood was the only material suitable for making longbows, which were medieval England's secret weapon. The wood is incredibly dense and flexible, allowing archers to draw enormous amounts of force while maintaining accuracy. English longbowmen could penetrate armor at distances that seemed impossible, and it was all thanks to yew trees. But yew trees provided much more than weapons. The wood was prized for making furniture and tools that needed to last for generations. Yew trees can live for thousands of years. Some yew trees in English churchyards are older than Christianity itself. Planting a yew tree was an investment in your family's future for literally dozens of generations. Here's where yew trees get really interesting. They're incredibly poisonous. The bark, leaves, and seeds contain compounds that can kill humans and livestock. But medieval healers learned to use tiny amounts of yew bark to treat certain ailments, essentially using poison as medicine in carefully controlled doses. The trees were also symbols of immortality and rebirth because they live so long and stay green year-round. Medieval people planted them in churchyards and sacred places, believing they connected the world of the living with the world of the dead. What's truly remarkable is that these trees provided everything medieval communities needed: food, medicine, tools, weapons, and even spiritual comfort. They were living warehouses that could sustain families for generations, and they did it all naturally, sustainably, and reliably. These weren't just trees. They were the foundation of medieval civilization. Every castle, every village, every farm depended on these incredible plants for survival. The next time you see any of these trees, remember that you're looking at thousands of years of human ingenuity and survival wisdom growing right in front of you.